Good evening, everybody, and welcome to our Zoom for this evening. We're extremely lucky to have a very technical expert with us this evening, Toby Ballion. And Toby is going to be talking you through creating a database based around the First Steps to Manager online. I've just started using it myself, and it is absolutely excellent. Over to you, Toby.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Cherry. And as you say, I'm going to, this evening, going to show you a thing that I've been working on for some time. In fact, about 15 years ago, I started looking at databases and trying to make them more friendly to forever living. And we did roll out, all that time ago, a system called automated contact tracking. And it was very good, but it was incredibly complicated. And we rolled it out in London, and it was difficult to use because the technology wasn't really ready. But towards the tail end of last year, I came across a system online which allows you to create a database on its platform. So it's like a framework. And then you can customize everything on it. And it's a relational database. Relational database really means just that you can relate one piece of data to another piece of data. For instance, everybody that's blonde and everybody that's blue-eyed. And that would be two pieces of relational data. Everybody who drinks aloe vera gel and also likes RG. That's another piece of relational data. So a relational database allows you to choose a number of different parameters, if you like, and put them up together. So my system is called the iGlobal database system. It's a combination of the Who Do You Know list and the profile sheet that we use in the First Steps to Manager. So it is absolutely compatible with the First Steps to Manager. This is specifically written and conceived for FBOs. And before I start, I'd like to just tell you a little bit about the basics of a database. A database consists of two things, of records and fields. Now, in the example that you see here, this is a record. And it consists of 4 fields: first name, a last name, a telephone number, and an email address. So when we're talking about databases, we're talking about a record being a complete set of data on something, in this case, on people, on a person, and it comprises of a number of fields. So if we look at different types of databases that we know, an index card system, for instance, is a database. A telephone directory is a database. An address book is a database. Can anyone else think of any types of databases that that we use commonly? Anybody?
Several on my phone.
Yeah, a phone. Your phone directory. Yeah. What about the register at school? The register is a database.
Oh, absolutely.
You also have different databases of what's it called? The poll.
The electoral roll.
Electoral roll is another database. Every company has a database of all its customers. Your bank statements is a type of database. So data consists of different records and fields, and depending on the application, depends on what the data is, the basics of the data is. Now, the basics of our Who Do You Know list is a name, a telephone number, and an email address, or parts of that. We could have just the first name and just the telephone number, for instance, or we could have just a first name and just an email address, or we could just have a telephone number or just an email address. But each one of those people, each one of those bits of data would comprise of a complete record. And so when we put together in our, and this is the page from First Steps to Manager, when we put together our Who Do You Know list, we put a name, a telephone number, or a contact, or an email, and any comments about that person, that contact. And remember that I make a differentiation between a contact and a prospect. A contact is a person, anybody that's on your list. So, for instance, you might not have the person's name, but it might be the lady at the bus stop, the woman in the florist, the woman at the supermarket, in the Tesco's checkout. And they go onto your Who Do You Know list, and if you are a effective networker, what you try and do is fill in the data that you're missing. So next time you go to Tesco's, you go to the till and you try and find out that person's name. The next time you go, you remember the person's name, you start up a conversation with that person, and you ask them some questions, some leading questions that might interest them in what you're doing. And if they're interested, you might ask them for an email address or a telephone number to be able to contact them when they're not at work, for instance. So you go building your Who Do You Know list in this way. What you're actually doing is you're farming your data. You're filling in your fields of data in each record card, in each record. So if you're doing that on paper, very quickly, when you get beyond 20, 30, 40 names, certainly 100 names, or as our lists, our First Steps to Manager implies, when you're doing it, it says, write down 200, 300, 400 names. Well, when you're dealing with 400 names on bits of paper, I can tell you that gets very complicated very quickly. And it starts to become very clumsy as a method of sorting through names. So what do? A contact, now that lady at Tesco's, we find out that her name is Mary Jane Smith. So we put down here in our profile sheet, Mary Jane Smith. We found out her telephone number. We found out her email address. We know that she lives in Slough. So we put her address as Slough. And we know her occupation is cashier at Tesco's. We might not know her age. We might not know her children, her children and the ages of her children. But these are the bits of information that in First Steps to Manager, we're supposed to find out within our conversations with Mary Jane. So when we phone Mary Jane up, we're going to start saying, well, Mary Jane, do you have children at school? Oh, really? How old are they? What are their names? And we would take some views on Mary Jane's personality. Is she self-employed? Well, she's not, because we know that she works at Tesco's. Would she like to be self-employed? Is she caring? Is she outgoing? Is she a people person? What was it that attracted us to her in terms of offering her or thinking that she might be a potentially good FBO? Is she well connected? Is she confident? Is she local? These are tick box answers that we do on a contact to convert that contact into a profile. Now, does everybody understand that process? Yes?
Yes.
Yes? So that is the objective of being a networker. Being a networker is to have a Who Do You Know list of contacts that we're going to convert into profile. So that said, what we then have to do is concentrate, therefore, on this data. So the data that we're asking for is a lot more than name, telephone number, and email, which is what we had in the first record, right, in the Who Do You Know list. It's now getting down to some fairly detailed stuff on people. So as an example, in the First Steps to Manager, we have this: Joanne Smith, her telephone number, her address, what she does, whether she's married, whether she drives, etc. You see that this is the example that they give us in the book. So how does that all relate to us? Right. Well, I came across this system in the cloud called Linux. And what I was able to do was write something very special. So what I'm now going to do is I'm going to share with you some data. I hope. I'm going to share with you some data that, can you all see that?
Yep.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what we've got here on the left-hand side is a spreadsheet, effectively, a spreadsheet. We've got a number of records down the side. We've got 12, right? We've got some names, some phone numbers, right? So here I am with Cherry, for instance, right? Or let me go to Annette as an example, right? So, okay, so Annette, you're on the line, aren't you? Let me see. Okay, so I'm going to phone Annette up, and I'm going to use my system on the Who Do You Knows list. This is my Who Do You Know list. So I'm going to phone Annette up, and I'm going to find out some information about her. So I have a record on Annette, right? Sorry, that's not it. It's a record on me. I have a record on Annette, and there it is. I'm just going to advance to it. Annette, right? So Annette is going to go, because I think that she's going to be really great, she's going to go on my hot list, right? So these campaigns here, right? She's on my C9 campaign and my hot list. So my hot list is the people I'm going to really target for the business, right? She could go on the Christmas card list, or she could go on the Duffer list, right? Or she could go on the pre-prize draw winner list, or she could go on a whole load of different campaigns that I could have. But in fact, I'm going to concentrate just on her, on the hot list, right? So because she's on the hot list, I'm going to invite her to a presentation. But long before I do that, I'm going to have to find out some information. Firstly, she's a Ms., so she's female. I'm going to find out her surname. So I'm also going to have to find out her telephone number. So let me have your telephone number.
Right, it's 07
07
98
98
98 9 1802.
Okay. So I would have done that when I met you at the bus stop or whatever. So now I'm going to phone you. I go, hi Annette, it's Toby here. Listen, it was great to meet you the other day. Listen, I'm sorry, I didn't catch your last name. What was your last name?
The last name is West, W-E-S-T.
Thanks. And we met in wherever. I don't know. Are you local to there?
Yeah, I'm up in Edinburgh. So yes.
Well, that's really interesting, right? Because I've been to Edinburgh a couple of times, but are you anywhere near the castle?
Yeah, I'm not far from the castle, just a couple of miles from the castle itself.
Really? Because
you can actually hear the gun at 1 o'clock. Goes off every day at 1 o'clock.
You must be really close. So now I'm actually looking. You can see I'm actually looking at the centre of Edinburgh, and I might say, well, I've been to the. I remember I went to the Scottish National Gallery. All right, blah 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 blah. Right, we're talking now. So now I know that you're living somewhere in Edinburgh. I could actually put in your actual address and postcode, for instance. I could say to you, well, what's your postcode?
Right. Postcode is EH6 5AP.
E8
H for Harry.
Sorry.
6
EH6
5AP.
5AP. Right. Now this takes me much more. Right. If I can get somebody's postcode, I can tell you that you live in Cambridge Avenue.
Okay.
Right? Is that right?
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
So then I've got an address where I can actually see where your thing. So this database gives me that functionality. Right. I can say here, free notes, right? I I could say, for instance, we talked all about the Caribbean.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
he's a big fan. Okay, for instance.
Yeah.
I could also perhaps try and get your email address from you. I could get your occupation from you, your age, whether you have kids, the kid's age, your partner, whether you're married, single, etc. These are all the set things that we're asked to find out from the profiling, right? But I can also put in here objectives. So the objective is here. I know she wants to build a business in the Caribbean. Caribbean, not spelled right, but
Yeah, when are?
right. So I know she wants to build a thing, and I can put that because it's really important. I can put it big. Right. So if I do that, look how big it is when it's in the database, right? The hot button, right? If I know you well enough, and I can find out some information about you, I'll find out where your hot button is. But I can also make notes on you, right? So I met her at the bus stop, and she was very smiley. Yeah, for instance.
Perfect. Yeah.
Okay. So here also, for instance, I can put the date. So I can put, and I would always put the date this way round, right, because it files best. From a computer point of view, that date is a much more efficient date. So I can then say, well, she speaks English, right? And obviously this is useful for me here, knowing different languages people speak. I can put self-employed, open-minded, outgoing, successful, ambitious. If you're a doctor or a accountant or something, I'd put professional. Local, if I lived in Edinburgh as well. Confident, right? All the things that you tick, all those boxes that you would tick in your first steps to manager, right? And so what you have here now is that first part is all the data, right, from first steps to manager. But you still only exist here. Just a second. You still only exist here as on the who do you know list. It's filled in this thing, look. So if I now take your email, what's your email? Get it? Can't hear you. You've muted.
Yes, it's Annette.
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 Yeah.
BW. B for Bertie. W for West.
Yeah.
60 at gmail.com.
Okay. So now you see that it's automatically filled in your who do you know list file.
Ah, right.
Your who do you know list file will automatically feed into this profile sheet and vice versa. Right? So for instance, if I take Chris Ballion here and I put crballion at gmail.com, right, which is his email, right? And I now go to him and look at that. You see how it's automatically filled in his email address here? But the rest of the data doesn't show because it's just your who do you know list, which is just like an index. So your who do you know list is an index and your form is your profile sheet. Now it goes a bit more intense than that, a bit more deep than that. For instance, if I want to send him an email, I won't go to him. I'll come back to you, Annette. Right? I want to send you an email. I click on this button, and it automatically opens up my email address, email program. I go, hi, Annette. Thanks for the chat, Toby. And I send that. That's now, you'll receive that email in just a second. You probably didn't see that because you didn't see my email program come up, which is this one. Yes, but I've just sent you here in my sent items, it will have just sent it to you anyway. It has just sent it to you. So I'll come back now to here, right? Now, your number is here. And I would have actually, if I had been doing this in my database, I would have done that because my database is international, okay? So here now I go, hello Annette, don't forget the presentation tonight at 8 p.m. on new synergy.live, okay? For instance, if I do that, I send that to you, it's going to come up as an error because it's not connected, but you see it says here as an error, but that would send to you as a text message, as a WhatsApp. So you'd receive that instantly. So I can do that all from here. Right. I've just phoned you, so I'd say now, it tells me the date of the last call was the 21st of the 7th of 2020 at 2027. I'm going to put you down and schedule you for a call on the 7th of August at 11 o'clock, 11:30 in the morning. Okay, can you see that? If I made an appointment for a one-to-one with you, I could put it here. A start time and an end time. A start time and an end time for a follow-up meeting. And then actually, because I spoke to you on the 7th of August, I sponsored you on the 9th of August, 2020. And to get you to the sponsor stage, I would have taken you through at least 6 stages of prospecting. The first stage would have been getting in touch with you. The second stage would have been having a one-to-one with you. The third stage would have been sending you a video. The fourth is a follow-up call. The fifth might be another video. And the sixth stage is sponsoring you. So I can see from this little row here at what stage you are in the sponsorship cycle. It gives me your full name here again. Likes, all right, I can put here, for instance, religious. That's a free note, you see. I can assign you to me or to somebody else in my team if I wanted to. I could here put a Facebook page, any other URL, another free note, colorful clothes. Here I could put a picture of you, if I had one. And that would constitute the record that I have on you. A full profile. A full profile that I can then use to follow up. So I'd build this picture of you as I'm supposed to do in the first steps to manager. And it all comes from your Who Do You Know list, which is, will come here in a second, there it is. And that is your Who Do You Know list. So that's the database. That's how it works. It's an electronic version of the It's an electronic version of the First Steps to Manager system. And I'll be very happy to answer any questions.
Oh, Toby, it's even better than I thought it was. Now, would you like the questions to remain on the recording, or would you like it switched off?
I don't mind. I think it's useful to have them on the recording.
Okay.
Yeah, I've got a question, Toby. Thank you very much for your presentation. Toby, you mentioned about the cycle, you know, the different parts of the cycle that you have, and you can actually, on the database itself, is there a way at the moment to incorporate the videos, you know, when you are sending out the videos to the prospective, to the opportunity visit video from your who do you know list to your prospective person? Is there a way, A, to send it out direct from that database, and B, to actually make a note of tracking that you've actually sent it out as well?
That's a good point. Do you subscribe to FLP 360?
Yes,
Okay.
I do.
Well, you'll know that in FLP 360, you have a very good method of putting together a little call to action, and you put your call to action together and you send it out.
Yeah.
What you don't have is a very good way of profiling your prospects.
Mm-hmm.
So FLP 360 is a great way of sending the message, and it also tracks the message and tells you when that person watched it. Yes?
Right.
So the FLP 360 is great for that. It's got all the tools. It's got the visual database, right?
Yeah.
That's a big job to write something like that. A
Right.
very big job. But what it doesn't have is an effective people database.
Yeah.
For lots of different reasons. Most of which revolve around the restrictions that on GPRS, or whatever it's called, the Database Protection Act, right? And so you can't have all this information on a database like that.
Right.
A database like 360. So basically what you would do is you could link your database, use the database to record all your people,
Yes.
and then just use the FLP 360 to dispatch the message.
Oh, right. Okay. Yes, I understand.
FLP 360 does all the clever things of recording it. Now, in the fullness of time, if I had the kind of resources that 360 had, I might write a database that allows you to send out messages and videos. But with a tool as good as 360, it's not worth doing.
Mm-hmm.
You've got that tool, but the database that you have in 360 isn't up to scratch.
No.
Because you can't split the data relationally. But you can't, say for instance, create a campaign for next week's business meeting. Mm-hmm. Which is actually what you need to do. You need to know that you've got 15 people that you're inviting to next week's meeting. Mm-hmm. When you call up the names, the list of 15 come up, so that you can speak to them on a daily basis in the week leading up to that meeting.
Gosh, Toby, that's so good. If you knew the number of little postcards I have with names and telephone numbers on it for business meetings, this just even gets better. The more you say, the more excited I'm getting.
Yeah. Any other questions? Anybody else got any comments?
I've got a question, Toby. When you put in when the date of the next telephone call is, or the follow-up meeting or whatever, does that link to a calendar, like a Google Calendar? Yes, good idea.
It could lead to a Google Calendar. It's something that I would have to develop it.
Okay.
But yes, it could do that. But at the moment, it's currently manual. So the great thing about this particular system is it's really flexible. It's got lots of APIs, which are links that you can link into things. So the scope of it is unlimited. It just needs one would need money to develop it.
Toby, could I ask you something? You and I have been doing a little bit of work on this today, and we've been able to look people up by their Christian names and by their surnames. Can you look people up by the date?
Yes.
So in theory, it would, if you looked up the date, it would tell you who you need to call that day.
Correct. You could write a little program very easily that you could go into every morning and say, look at the date of the computer. So the computer date would say it's the 21st of July. I said, look up everybody that you have to contact on the 21st of July, and it would give you that list.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
To write that would take, I don't know, an hour and a half of somebody's time. So yes, it can be done, easy. Is there the money and the will and the want to do it? Yes, because what I found is that I can't find anything that presents me the data like it needs to be in First Steps to Manager.
Yeah.
If I bring on a new person and I show them a manual, a paper method to start this business with a who do you know list and a profile sheet, right? And then I can't replicate that in the data form, right?
Yes.
Well, in the 21st century, I feel a bit of a chump. I know it sounds ridiculous, but we still work on bits of paper, and we have this file with 1 to 31 down the spine of it, and that is what I set about doing, to create that as an electronic data. And I think it's very successful. It does everything that you need it to do.
Toby, I think it's absolutely outstanding. I struggled for years to find something that I can operate properly, because my paper system can't cope, and I can't cope with the technology. But now, thanks to you, I found one that I can cope with. So if I can, I'm sure everybody else can. But the reason it's so successful, Toby, is because you're a networker doing the job, and that most of the people who put the systems together have no idea even what network marketing is, let alone do the job. So it's being designed by people who don't actually know what they're doing in our business. So we're eternally grateful to you. Thank you so much.